You're watching the SCAC Player of the Week interviews. It's week 4 of the SCAC track and field season, and today we're joined by the SCAC Women's Track and Field Athlete of the Week, sophomore Avery Puig of the Trinity University Tigers. And Avery, first of all, congratulations and thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Avery, you and the rest of your Tiger teammates competed at the West Kintley Invite last weekend, hosted by Abilene Christian. What impressed you most just from an overall team perspective, and what kind of gives you confidence with this group as you start to ramp up in the quality of performances, heading into the second half of the season?
From an overall team perspective, we've just been kind of training here at home. We're competing here at home for our first team meet. So going out to Abilene and seeing a lot of different other teams, whether it be D1, D2, D3. It's really nice to see all of my teammates perform at a really good level, competing against people outside of the conference. So it kind of sets our team up at a really good place going into conference or our other meets leading to conference.
Individually, Avery, you were outstanding, finishing with top 15 finishes in 3 different events. You set a new PR in the 100 meters with a time of 12:57. You also had a new PR in the 100 hurdles, time of 15:52, and then took home 13th place in the 400 hurdles in a time of 1:13:06. Take me through your individual performances last weekend. How were you able to be so successful out there on the track for the Tigers? And does a weekend like that give you individual confidence moving forward?
Mm-hmm. In high school, it was very challenging for me, I guess, competition-wise. I would get really nervous and run a lot of my other competitors' races rather than my own. So coming into college, that was really my main focus, to just really focus on myself, my lane, my race, because I'm just trying to individually work to get as best as I can be. And yes, I am concerned with my other competitors, how I shape up with them. But when I do race, it's just kind of going in, I'm racing my own race, not to really about anyone else, especially with hurdles, because you can kind of get really concerned with oh, this person might hit me, or they're next to me. But hurdles is a very technical race. So I feel like I work really hard in practice to improve all the technical things and things like that. So when a race comes, it's kind of hard not to focus on other people and how they have been training. But in the end, it's just kind of putting everything that I worked out into practice into the race and just focusing really on the things I have to improve on. And as for the 100-meter dash, I actually did not run that race in high school. So I've only run it twice, last year in our homie and this year in West Kintley Invitational. So it's just I'm just kind of running it, trying to do my best and just putting all the form into it.
You talked a little bit about some of the training, specifically when it comes to the hurdles, Avery, and I'm interested about the balance that you have to find between your speed training and your strength training. The timing, the getting over the hurdles. What is maybe not so obvious to the normal eye, to the normal spectator, when it comes to getting better at hurdles that you really focus on in your training day in and day out?
Yeah. I feel especially with the 100 hurdles, it is a lot of technique. And usually viewers will just look at a person and be like, oh, they're super tall, they must be so amazing at hurdles, or oh, they can jump really high, they must be so good at hurdles. But in reality, I think the hurdle races come down to a lot of technique and just speed in between the hurdles. And it honestly does take a lot of training to kind of get better in those aspects. I still have a lot to improve on within both my hurdle races and just running speed in general. But it's just the main thing I'm focusing on right now is just my quickness over the hurdle, because I have a tendency to kind of flag over the hurdles. So just getting over the hurdles at a really quick speed and just being really low and technique, and of course running in between, is what is the most important, I would say.
Another thing you touched on, Avery, was just the competition that you got to face this past weekend at that Abilene Christian West Kintley Invite. Track unique to a lot of other sports. You have the opportunity to compete against runners from Division II, Division I institutions. How much motivation maybe does that add, getting to go up against that competition, and how special is it that you have that opportunity to compete and measure up against athletes in other divisions?
Mm-hmm. It's really exciting. I think not discouraging, but definitely a motivator to kind of push yourself to do better and just shape up with those athletes. Because even if you can finish last in your heat competing against Division I, Division II teams, you will always put out a new personal best or a new season record. So it's just really, we're really privileged to be able to compete against other schools like that since they are at a higher standing than us. So it's also really nice to see how we compete against them as well.
And finally, Avery, to wrap things up, looking ahead to this weekend, you and your teammates back to action, a couple of different opportunities to compete, the Texas State Bobcat on Friday and the TLU D3 Challenge on Saturday. What are your expectations going into these two meets, and what will be key for this team just to kind of continue to build off of the success and momentum that you've gained early on in the season?
I think that these two meets are going to be really important going into conference in a few weeks because we haven't really competed at like a conference level so much rather than like competing against D2, D1 like we did in these past 2 weeks. So I feel like our team going into this weekend is going to be like really excited because it's a more conference wise meet. So it's going to be really exciting to see, because it's kind of going to be like an example of conference, which is going to be kind of exciting just to see what we have to work on and what we have to improve to do how we want to perform in conference.
A Laredo, Texas native, this week's SCAC Women's Track Athlete of the Week for Week 4 of the 2021 season, sophomore Avery Puig of the Trinity University Tigers. Avery, again, congratulations on your honor and best of luck as you continue to move forward throughout your sophomore season.
Thank you.